My wife had an affair with her coworker. Hi, everyone. This is my first time posting here. I was told that this sub could be good for me with my ongoing situation. I have 5 posts detailing my ordeal, and I'll be providing links to those at the end of this post for better context. But here's a brief overall summary. I, 28M, found out that my wayward wife, 28F, had an EA which turned into a PA with her coworker, 35M. AP's married himself with twins. D-Day for me is officially 3 weeks ago. The affair came out after AP's STBXW confronted him and my wayward wife at work, which caused a big scene in front of other employees and customers. She and I have been married for 5 years, but we've been together for 15 years in total. We met when we were 5 years old, remained neighbors growing up, and started dating at 13. We've been together ever since. We were each other's first relationship and first everything. We both came from broken homes. My own family was wrecked by an affair my dad had, and I'm the one who caught him cheating and told my mom. My relationship with my dad is not good at all because he blames me for ruining the family and he has never forgiven me. My wayward wife's broken home consisted of her alcoholic mom and neglect. But we always had each other, and we strived to create something different than what we grew up seeing. My wayward wife has profusely apologized, has given me a detailed timeline, and has asked me if I could find it in myself to reconcile. Ever since D-Day, I've just been broken and feel like I'm drowning. I left our home and I've been staying with my mom. I went from having NC with my wayward wife to light contact. I haven't been doing well. Apparently it's been the same way for my wayward wife. My wayward wife has said that she understands my need for space, and she'll accept whatever consequences come her way, but that she's not giving up on us, and that she's going to start looking into IC. I actually had my first IC today. This is all one summary, so I do hope you're able to read my 5 previous posts for the whole story. I always said cheating would be a deal breaker for me, but I don't know anything anymore regarding all of this. I hate feeling so helpless again. I'm here today to ask the community, what has reconciliation looked like for you? What has it entailed? Would it display a lack of boundaries if reconciliation was offered after it was already stated cheating was a deal breaker? Could any boundary be taken seriously after that? I would appreciate not just answers to these questions, but any input, advice, and perspectives. My wife had an affair with her coworker. Update-01. The Mind movies have begun, and an update on my wayward wife's health, June 16, 2022. Hi, everyone. Thanks again for the insightful advice, support, and sharing your stories on my last post. It really meant a lot during this time. There have been some developments since the last time I posted, so I thought I'd provide an update. Last night was a particularly rough night for me. Out of nowhere, my mind started playing Mind movies of my wayward wife and AP, so that was hell in a new form. Watching TV couldn't get my mind off of it, reading couldn't get my mind off of it, anything I tried, really, didn't work. Last Monday was my first IC session. I was nervous about it. If I'm being honest, that nervousness hasn't entirely left me, but I think the first session went okay, and I'm comfortable so far with the therapist's style. For right now, I have 2 sessions per week. I'm still on a leave of absence from work, so I'm trying to make the most of it. My next session is tomorrow. There's been some progress with my wayward wife following through on seeking IC for herself. Originally, she had told me that she was searching over the weekend, and that yesterday morning she had a general conversation with a therapist over the phone. That same day, she texted me the name and contact details of the one she was leaning toward. I haven't had much contact with my wayward wife since we saw each other last Saturday. It's been some texts back and forth. Admittedly, I have been concerned due to her not doing well and not eating. I know some might say that I shouldn't care at this point in time, but I do care. I haven't been doing so well myself since D-Day, but I just can't help but worry about her. Just the thought of her this way hurts me even more. I want her to be better again. I want to tell her that everything's going to be okay again, but I can't do any of that. I've had some conversations with my SAL, and from what she told me, there hadn't been much improvement. This morning, I received a FaceTime call from my wayward wife. There wasn't much difference from how she looked last Saturday. She tried to mask it with a little smile, but I wasn't fooled by it. She used to have the most bright, infectious kind of smile. She would literally just smile for no apparent reason other than just to smile. We used to joke about it sometimes. Seeing her on the FaceTime call was no less heartbreaking. All I could think of was how different things were only just a few weeks ago, and now everything's changed, everything's broken. And I just sit and wonder, how did we end up here, and then know the answer to that, the affair. I'm just so sad and upset, and a part of me feels like someone should pay for what's happened to my family and OBS's family. Does that even make sense? Has anyone else felt this way before? I don't know, maybe a lot of people are already paying for it. OBS, her kids, and myself. I think my wayward wife is paying for it now too. I asked her what was going on, and she told me something had happened which she was relieved about. She was going to just text it, but decided to try calling at the last second. Her period started today, so that news eliminated any potential pregnancy with AP concerns. I thanked her for letting me know. We were both quiet for a moment, and then I broke the silence. We started talking about a variety of things: her not really eating, her mental state, her employment status, and her going to IC. She said that my concern shouldn't be on her right now, but I made her promise to start eating regularly, and she agreed that she would try. I also mentioned that she should really start making movement on IC, and not just because she thinks it could save our relationship, but I needed her to do so for herself. Despite whatever becomes of our relationship, I do think IC will serve her well. She promised that she had been seriously looking into IC, and that everything she said before weren't empty words. I asked her if she was looking at anything in regards to new employment. She said she had been looking at a few job listings, and that my sale had also sent her some listings that she spotted. The jobs my wayward wife has been looking at are some in the field she was in, and also some customer service jobs, but she hasn't applied for anything yet. I asked if she was covered financially, and she said she still had some money saved that'd help with her being unemployed. She asked how I was doing, and I simply said everything she could imagine, but 10 times worse. I wasn't trying to do some purposeful jab at her, but it was the truth. In fact, the truth was I was feeling worse than that. She said that every time I check in on her or provide some verbal support, even after what she's done, that she feels even more guilty, but she feels like she deserves every ounce of those feelings. I didn't really know what to say to that at the time. But before I could say anything, she reiterated her promise to seek IC. She mentioned something that surprised me. She name-dropped a book that I've seen a few people on here recommend to me, How to Help Your Spouse Heal from Your Affair by Linda J. McDonald. She hadn't purchased it yet, but said she thought it would be good for her to read. Shortly after that, we ended the call. I sent a text to my sale, asking her to keep an eye on her sister as much as she could during this time and to update me. This afternoon, my wayward wife texted me that she had made the appointment with the therapist she was telling me about. Her first session is this Friday. So at least that process is officially beginning on that for her. All in all, not much has changed for me. I absolutely dread the thought of another bout with the mind movies. Does anyone have any advice on combating those? I lost that fight last night. Would it even be a good idea for my wayward wife to read the book now? Again, I would appreciate any advice or perspective anyone has to offer. Update, 02 D-Day, June 25, 2022. Hi, everyone. It's been a whirlwind since my last post, to say the least. Thank you to everyone who reached out with kind words and to check up on me. I honestly wasn't expecting the show of community I have received from this subreddit. It's all very much appreciated. So, it's nearly a month since D-Day for me. A lot has happened since then, and it still seems surreal in many ways. In one way it feels like D-Day was 1,000 years ago, like the days have felt like weeks, and the weeks have felt like months. But then, on the other hand, D-Day seems like it happened only yesterday. The daily hell of mind movies have been persisting. The mornings didn't used to be so bad because I had a few moments before I realized my wayward wife wasn't with me, and then reality comes crashing down on me. But I had a mind movie yesterday morning. I've talked with my therapist about them, but it hasn't made the movies any less persistent or painful. These mind movies are like you're forced to watch a movie you don't want to see. You can't pause it, turn it off, or walk away from it. It's just on and you have no choice in the matter. I go back to work this Monday. Honestly, I'm kind worried about reporting back. Even though I work remote, it still requires the same focus, and I worry how the mind movies could affect me. It's a fear of mine, the possibility of one coming on during work. I don't really know what to expect. Saturdays have been some of the worst nights. Before D-Day, Saturday nights were at-home movie nights for me and my wayward wife. We've always been big film buffs. That's what started that tradition. As Saturdays come and go since D-Day, it's just an aching reminder. Apparently, some music and dancing is a trigger for me now. I tried cooking the other day to keep my mind occupied. Cooking is a joy of mine. Well, music came on from the TV, and it triggered me. My wayward wife and I used to cook dinner together, and we'd usually have music playing. We'd slow dance to a song at times. I don't know what happened, but suddenly all I could think of was my wayward wife sharing a dance with AP in that hotel room. It all caught me off guard. It's like it's a tarnished memory, almost, and it hurts. I think IC has been going well so far, more so than it did for the year I went when I was a teen. Back then, I bounced around between a couple of therapists, but I think I found the right fit for me at the start this time around. Sometimes he speaks less and just listens, other times he's asking more questions. Something he has told me is that healing is not going to be linear. We've talked some about the affair and my relationship with my wayward wife. He said that the affair wasn't my fault, nor did I have any control over it. I was in the dark and it was out of my hands. But what I do have control over is deciding where do I go from here. Admittedly, I gave some pushback on that because I don't feel in control of myself emotionally, I feel lost in the wind. But he told me that despite what's going on around me, the next step in how I proceed from here is my sole decision. He described R as a gift only I could make and offer. My wayward wife has been going to IC herself now. She's never been to therapy before, so after her first session, I was curious about how it went. I texted her about it, and she said it was new to her, but reiterated that she's committed to the process. I know my wayward wife has started reading How to Help Your Spouse Heal from Your Affair. I've been reading some of the book as well, and honestly it has made me feel validated and covers a range of emotions that I've been grappling with. My sale updated me on my wayward wife. She's been eating more regularly again, but it's still a struggle. This NC to like contact for space thing, while still having a desire to talk with her and wanting to see how she's doing, has been one of the most difficult experiences I've ever dealt with. Something I've been weighing is whether or not me and my wayward wife should tell others about the affair. I've had a lot of mixed emotions about it. I've been weighing the pros and cons, but I've been leaning away from it. We only have a small circle around us, and I don't really see the value of anyone else knowing outside of my mom and Sael. Those are the people involved with us the most. My dad has no involvement, nor has he ever shown support. He'll just most likely give a speech on glass houses and all that mess. My MIL also isn't much involved with us, although she's been more of a presence than my dad. The relationship between my wayward wife and my mom has been weighing on me, too. Prior to D-Day, they always had this firm mother-slash-daughter relationship. My wayward wife calls my mother mom, she hasn't even called her own bio-mom that in a very long time. My mom has been devastated about the affair. She's dealing with a betrayal of her own with my wayward wife, from what my dad did to our family, and now she sees it happening to me. She still hasn't outright said anything against my wayward wife, but I know she's hurting too, and I know that the relationship she and my wayward wife shared has taken a severe blow. I don't know if that bond can recover or at least be somewhere near that same level of closeness. I know my wayward wife feels and knows that too, and that loss deeply hurts her. They haven't had any contact since D-Day. Maybe it's not my place to worry about it right now, but I do. I can't help it. And it's a part of the anger I feel. Me and others having to deal with the pieces of something we never chose. Even with Obius and her twins, and I well know all the pain those kids are already going through and will experience. It's like watching history repeat itself in a way. Pain, that's all that's going around. I believe my wayward wife's in pain, too, and I just keep thinking if only she would have considered that before the affair, maybe things would be different right now. I wanted to give an update on a variety of things that have been going on. Has anyone had to deal with the fallout of a relationship between a WS and a family member who were close before D-Day? How have you coped or been coping with triggers or fond moments that are now tarnished? I ask for advice and perspectives on the situation. Update 03. AP tried contacting my wayward wife again July 2, 2022. Hi, everyone. A lot has happened since I last posted. I've been trying to get my bearing on it all. I've been seeing the comments and the input is very much appreciated. I'm still working on replying. Here's a new update. Since my last post, I've gone back to work. This was my first week back, and juggling that with 2 sessions a week of IC has been a delicate balance. It's been weird being back. I felt like a fish out of water for a while, but I did fall back into a bit of the rhythm. There were times where my focus slipped. I guess it's going to take some time getting readjusted with everything else going on. But being back at work did keep my mind occupied in a way. I'm thankful no mind movies or triggers have come on at work so far. Last Saturday night was particularly difficult. I was scrolling through the TV guide and Singing in the Rain was on, just the title took me to a place. It's one of me and my wayward wife's favorite movies. She used to quietly sing along with it whenever we watched. She would claim to anyone that she can't sing, but she has a beautiful voice. It was a lot, and before I knew it I started crying. Out of nowhere, my mom's dog came up to me and rested its head against me. He sensed my distress and was there to provide some comfort. Dogs are a true gift, and are always there when you need them. It's been hitting me about how much I miss the little things such as hearing my wayward wife sing. I used to joke with her that I'd be the first one online buying ticket to her concert. On Tuesday night, as I was going over this work project, I received an unexpected FaceTime call from my wayward wife. When I answered, she looked agitated. I asked her what had happened, and she told me that AP had emailed her. I questioned her on it because I was under the impression that AP was blocked. She said that it hadn't crossed her mind to block his email, too, and that she was about to block his email. But she first wanted to send a rejection response back to him and thought it'd be best if I'd review it. She said that she knows the work of confronting AP and shutting any door he tries to open falls on her, but she just wanted to be transparent with me and to shut AP down with my full knowledge and approval. She apologized for bringing me into it, and said that she has no right to ask for my support, but I cut her off right there and told her that I appreciated what she was doing. I think her immediately coming forward to me about the email did mean something to me because with me being gone from our home she could have easily kept me in the dark about it or replied without me knowing. That and being given a say in her reply to AP. I feel like I never factored in during the affair, like I wasn't even a blip on the radar. Sometimes I think, well, hell, did I ever cross your mind while this was going on? Did you ever second guess because of me? My wayward wife showed me the email from her tablet. What I read made my blood boil. Between the time AP sent the email and the time it took her to call me, only a minute had passed. She said that she was disgusted by the email and that she sees through his behavior in a way she hadn't before. I don't know where to begin with AP's email. I only ever grow more disgusted with AP. In the email, he just went on and on about my wayward wife blocking his number, and if I had made her do that. He tried to fish what was the status of our relationship since D-Day, and of course trashing OBS some more, complaining about how she kicked him out and that she's being a see you next Tuesday about the divorce. He should the actual word, but I won't because it's a word I choose not to use. He wrote that my wayward wife should know by now that he has her back, saying he would like to see her, and that she should come over to his room at the extended stay. My wayward wife wrote back an unforgiving reply. She said that she chose on her own accord to block him, and as she told him on D-Day, she didn't want to continue things. She said as far as his divorce goes, he deserves whatever he gets the same way she'll deserve the same thing, that anything they're experiencing is nothing compared to what their respective spouses and families are dealing with. She said she hated who she was with him, and that she wants him to leave her alone and not contact her anymore. After she finished and reread her reply to me, I gave my approval. She sent it and then blocked his email address. We talked for a little bit afterward. Nothing really about AP, but about how each other were doing. She said that I shouldn't be concerned about her, but I told her that I was. She said that she'll never forgive herself for bringing this on us and that we were each other's safe haven and she made a mess of everything, that she knows words aren't enough and that the trust has been broken, but she means everything she has said and she hopes that it'll show through her actions. She says that she hates that she had a part in uprooting so many lives, and she just genuinely hates herself. I stopped her from continuing because despite the immense hurt and betrayal I feel, hearing her say that ripped me apart inside. My wayward wife has a little garden at home. Gardening was something she picked up during lockdown. I asked her how the plants were doing, and she said that she was struggling to find comfort in it like she usually did, but they were doing well. She showed me the newest plant that has certainly grown since I left on D-Day. Before we ended the call, she asked if we could talk again, but I told her that I wasn't sure. At the time, I couldn't promise it. But I couldn't stop thinking that maybe a meetup in a natural public space wouldn't be the worst idea. There's a local park near us that has this lake. It's pretty quiet and relaxing place. We used to go there sometimes. Later that night, I texted her about meeting up at the park. She responded yes no more than 10 seconds later. From there, we agreed to meet up at the park the following day at 6 p.m. To say that I was nervous after solidifying the plans would be putting it mildly. I didn't know what to expect anymore, whereas before D-Day I was so certain regarding her and I. I originally included us meeting up yesterday, but I kept running into errors with including it in this post. I had to end up separating them. So I'm going to make a follow-up post detailing our meetup very soon. I was also wondering if I should provide the AP's email to OBS. I wasn't sure if it was the right idea or something unnecessary that will lead to more hurt for her. I appreciate any advice that can be offered. Update-04. I met up with my wayward wife, July 4, 2022. Hi, everyone. Here's my follow-up post for the meetup with my wayward wife. Leading up to leaving for the park. I felt like my emotions were thrown into a tornado. I didn't know what to expect. I was overthinking and second-guessing everything. I thought it'd be best if I arranged some safe topics for me and my wayward wife to discuss. I also prepared to cut the day short if needed. My wayward wife beat me to the park. She was already waiting in the parking lot when I drove up. I just took a deep breath before I even got out of my car. I prepared to cut the meetup short if it proved to be too much. We actually got out of our cars at the same time, and she came to meet me. I could immediately tell that she was anxious, too. We kind of awkwardly greeted each other. I did get the sense she was self-conscious about her appearance. I complimented her. It slipped out without a second thought. She looked beautiful. I feel like that's a contradiction due to the betrayal and immense hurt I feel daily from her. I think she was caught off guard by my compliment. She had this shocked look on her face, and she thanked me. I suggested that we'd go for a walk around the lake, and she was up for it. On our way to the pathway, there was this shaved ice vendor at the park, and I asked if she would like anything. I thought it was a good idea to help keep cool with the heat our area has been hit with. We looked at the menu and we both selected the same flavor at the same time: strawberry. The vendor had a little chuckle at that. It reminded me of how attuned my wife and I were prior to D-Day. My wayward wife went to pay, but I stopped her. She said that I didn't have to, but I told her that it was my treat, and besides I was the one who invited her out. After getting our shaved ice, we walked out to the path circling the lake. At first our walk was just silent. Kind of an awkward silence. It was a peaceful atmosphere around the lake, and not a lot of people out, only about a handful of people spread out, mostly families. I think she didn't want to push me to talk. It also felt like a lot of stuff was being said in the silence and we were both not sure where to start, like could we just be us again for this moment and not address the affair elephant in the room? Despite me gathering safe topics, my mind went blank. Anything pre-planned went out the window. I walked with my shaved ice, thinking, what are we even supposed to talk about? But I broke the silence and asked how her day had been, and that stated our convoy that lasted for our entire walk. We talked about how each of our day had been so far, the nature around us, the ducks walking around and the ones floating on the lake, the sky that biked past us, and we remarked how what was he trying to prove by biking in this heat? We talked some more about her garden back at our home. She asked how I was doing with my return to work and attentively listened to every single detail of my mundane work project. She wanted to know all about it and hear what I'd been up to. I realized that we hadn't really had these kinds of talks since I left on D-Day. I couldn't deny to myself that I missed it. We even talked about neighbors. She said one of our neighbors annoyingly decided to set off fireworks late at night all weekend. It felt like us just spending time together again, and I remembered how much I used to enjoy it. I still feel conflicted about it now, as I still feel everything that the affair has unleashed on us. And then the convoy grew to our current situation. How things have changed. She had said how much better the weather had been just a few weeks ago, and I said that everything was better just a few weeks ago. It got quiet again between us. I ended up asking how her employment search was going, and she opened up about that. She's been having trouble finding new work, and hasn't heard back from any particular job yet. She said that the jobs in her field were narrow, and that she was still looking into customer service work. There's this new local restaurant that's preparing to open up, and they're hiring for servers and hostess. She said she's considering applying there. I asked if she was still okay financially in the meantime, and she said that she should be for right now. My wayward wife was always good at saving money even when she didn't have to, so I don't really doubt that. But despite what's going on, she's still my wife, and my love for her doesn't just go away. I wanted to make sure she's okay in that area. She eventually asked something that I could tell was troubling her. She asked how mom was doing. She didn't say it as, "How's your mom doing?" She said, "How's mom doing?" I spoke a little about her. I didn't try to guilt my wayward wife with how my mom had been feeling, but I couldn't just put on a poker face and lie about it either. I knew she would have seen through it. So I gave a summed up version. She had this dejected look on her face, and she just looked down to the ground. I brought up my mom's dog, who my wayward wife always loved, and I showed her some pictures I took of him. Just like talking about my mom, the dog pictures had an effect on her, and we talked about him for a little bit, and how I'd been walking him through the neighborhood lately. Towards the end of it, she started tearing up, like she was fighting back tears. Something happened that stunned me. I instinctively put my arm around her shoulder. I think that simple gesture shook her too. She wasn't expecting it. I had to hold back my own tears as I thought about how messed up everything's become. For a minute, I thought I would have cut the meeting short. I wasn't sure if I was going to be able to continue on, but I just tried to focus on my breathing. She apologized. I told her that she didn't need to apologize about this part, but she looked at me and just said, "Don't I?" and said that this was all on her. After that, we stood there quietly while she gathered herself. It was getting hotter outside, so we walked back to the parking lot. I walked her to her car. Before she got in, she thanked me for meeting up with her, and how much she'd missed us being together like this. She then asked if we could meet up again, and I only said that maybe we could talk about it another time. She nodded and got into her car. I told her to drive safe and watched her drive off, and then I went on my own way. When I returned home, my mom asked how things had gone and how was I holding up. She only listened and gave me some words of comfort. She was distant from me meeting my wayward wife, and only asked if I thought I could handle it. All in all, the meet-up was bittersweet. A part of me cherished it and didn't want it to end, but I felt all the pain accompanying it. It's strange, I felt rejuvenated in a sense after spending that time with my wayward wife, but I'm also emotionally exhausted. I've been seriously considering if we should meet up again. I haven't made any plans on that yet. For right now, I am going to send AP's email to OBS. Thank to everyone who voiced their opinion on that, because I wasn't sure if I was doing the right thing. I feel like it's something she needs to know and it could help her out with her case. Update-05. Me and my wayward wife part. 1 July 16, 2022. Hi, everyone. It's been a little bit since my last post. It's been a whirlwind since then, and if I'm being honest, I've been in quite a slump from it all, so I haven't been able to make coherent posts. I'm also sorry for the missed comments. I do want to thank everyone for the advice, support, and kind words. It's all very much appreciated and I don't take it for granted. I seem to be running into issues with including everything that's been going on in one post, so I'll make a second post as well, and attach the link here. Here's the update. I met up with my wayward wife again back on the 4th. We've never done anything major on the 4th, mainly cookout at times with my mom and Sale. Those usual plans were not in the cards this year, and my wayward wife wouldn't be with her sister who still had to go to work. So I thought maybe my wayward wife and I could go see the fireworks. Admittedly, I went back and forth on the idea, but decided to follow through on it. I texted her if she would want to do so, and apologized for it being last minute. I received an almost automatic read notification. She said that timing wasn't a problem and that she would love to, and that she'd get ready. I told her to take her time. When I sent the text, there were still about 3 hours until the fireworks started. We met up downtown around an hour later with this Starbucks being the meetup spot, and then headed for the area of the show. During our walk I noticed that her hand twitched toward me a few times. I think out of instinct she wanted to hold my hand. This gesture didn't happen when we were at the park, but I assume that's because we had the shaved ice, so our hands were preoccupied. We could be walking out into the backyard and we'd come out holding hands. Before D-Day, whenever we walked, we held hands. I think she wanted to, but wanted to respect my space or just wasn't sure if I'd be receptive. I don't know how my reception would have been either, and I hate that I don't. The affair has done a number in so many ways that I'm still coming to terms with. We just talked as friends would, albeit there was an awkwardness because of the reality of our current situation. It's not the same as it once was, and the truth is, it's not going to be. That realization is still hard for me. There wasn't much talking during the fireworks, we just watched them in each other's company. We actually left a little early because there was a group getting persistently obnoxious. Afterward, me and my wayward wife walked through downtown for a little bit, heading in the direction of our cars, but not so much in a hurry. Our conversation from before the fireworks picked back up. Honestly, it felt nice and such a relief to just have her with me like that. Despite everything that I'm feeling, I missed her so much, and it was a relief to know that at least she wasn't back at our home alone, that I could see her with my own eyes. But it was also laced with pain and sadness. I asked if she would like to go grab a bite to eat, and she was up for it. We went to that local restaurant I mentioned in a post before that has the meal I bought for my wayward wife when my Sale informed me that she wasn't eating. She told me that she applied for the hostess position at another restaurant that's opening up in August. She's been down about the whole job search because it hasn't been turning out so well. The jobs in her chosen field haven't been reaching out. There could be a lot of reasons why she hasn't received a response yet, but she worries if she was actually good at her job or if it was just AP pushing her along. During our convoy, she received a text which she showed me without me having to ask. It was from her sister. After we arrived back to where our cars were, we still lingered a bit as we talked, and then when we were parting, she thanked me for the night, and I thanked her for joining me. She said that she feels like she doesn't deserve these moments, but at the same time she misses me, she feels selfish for it, and doesn't know how to deal with the two conflicting feelings. I told her that I understood what she meant. She asked if she could see me again, and I told her that maybe we could set something up for the end of the week or the following week. She agreed. As I was leaving, I couldn't shake this horrible feeling, knowing she was going back to being on her own. After the 4th, my marriage, the new normal, reconciliation, divorce, etc., everything has been weighing on me. I've been overthinking and second-guessing. I hate feeling so unsure of my decisions regarding my marriage. It wasn't this way before D-Day. I've talked about this in IC, and I know the next path forward, whether it's R or divorce, depends on me. It was a particularly rough time since the fireworks. I'm going to touch on this in the follow-up post. Update 06 on me and my wayward wife part -02 July 16, 2022. The Friday after the 4th started off on a better note. I felt less heightened and awoke to my mom's dog at my bedside. The dog has been a good comfort, even from just taking him out on walks. It's strange, just a few months before D-Day, my wayward wife and I were discussing getting a dog of our own. I was set on trying to take the day slow. Work was going relatively okay. My lunch break came, and I went to get a little snack when out of nowhere this trigger hits me, and it's like I was pulled apart like cotton candy. I was literally hunched over the kitchen counter trying to catch my breath. I believe I was having a panic attack. Of course, this alerts my mom's dog. I want to say this episode lasted for a good 5 to 10 minutes. It was one of the worst triggers I've had, if it's even possible to rank them. My mom was out on a grocery run, and with the way I was feeling, I didn't want to be alone, so I called my wayward wife. My breathing was still hitching when I did. She answered on the second ring, and I think she could immediately hear the distress in my voice because she responded with urgency right away, asking me what was wrong. When I didn't respond right back, she tried to switch to a FaceTime video call. I don't know what she saw in my face, but it looked like it shook her. I asked if she could just stay on for a bit. She nodded. It took me about another couple of minutes to settle down. My wayward wife asked again what was wrong. I knew I finally had to tell her. I didn't see any way around it with what she had just seen, and I didn't see the point in keeping the Mind movies, etc., hidden from her. I told her that it's been happening for a while now, that I've been getting Mind movies of her and AP in the hotel room, and there's been certain things that are now triggers for me. She never said a word, and just took in everything I said. I told her that this one in particular was strong. Before I knew it, I just broke down crying as I tried to explain. I managed to tell her that sometimes it feels like I'm having trouble just breathing, how I only get a few hours of sleep now, and even that's not peaceful, and that I feel like a shell. I said I couldn't bear to tell her any of this before. Because I feel like I've lost her and I didn't know how to approach her with broken trust, that I feel like I'm grieving the loss of her as well. For me, it's like I lost the woman I love, my best friend and family. She starts crying, and she said she was so sorry she's done this to me. We just cried together for a little bit. After we both settled down, she said that she'd been speaking with her therapist about feeling the same losses and hole that I described, but she feels it's different in the sense that she's the one who imploded our relationship and family. She wants to fight for our relationship and doesn't want to be without me, but also wants to respect my space. She said our meetups have meant everything to her, and yet she fears them as well. She's afraid that one of our meetups or text/calls is going to be the one where I say that it's officially over. She said she won't try to fight it when it happens because she deserves it. Hearing that wrecked me. I told her that I haven't tossed away our relationship, that me not being home doesn't mean that I have. I told her I appreciated her efforts and for taking IC seriously. I asked if she was having any forms of mind movies or triggers too. She said she has random flashes of that night with AP and has triggers so far in terms of certain words he would say to her. I could only say that we're a messed up pair these days, and she said only repeated that she's the one who did this to us, OBS and her kids, and mom. I refuted and said this doesn't all fall back on her, that AP did more of his fair share in terms of what he did to his own family. But she kept insisting that she's the one who let him into our lives in the first place. She asked what could she do to support me through the mind movies and triggers. I told her that I wasn't sure. But after some silence, I asked if she would be open to talking with each other about what we were each experiencing, like us being there for each other as friends, which was the foundation of our relationship. We can talk about it in IC and talk about it with each other. She said that she wants to help me in any way she can, but she doesn't know if it's possible or even fair for me to be trying to support her through the consequences of the affair. I knew she had her IC session coming up, so I started to end the call. But before that, I brought my mom's dog on and it impacted my wayward wife. She was waving and calling out to him, and he of course recognized her and was staring at the screen and wagging his tail. We shared that moment for a bit. Before hanging up, she thanked me for confiding in her about what I was experiencing, and I thanked her for being there and opening up about what she was going through. She said that I could call her anytime I wanted and she would do her best to help me combat the movies. To be honest, I cried some more right after the call. I tried to resume work, but I was sluggish. When my mom came home, I went to help her out with the bags, and I couldn't even fake it. I think she knew what happened while she was away in terms of an episode coming on. She gave me some words of comfort. It was conflicting, and it still feels that way. On one hand, it did feel nice opening up to my wayward wife again, but it almost felt wrong in a sense, like a part of me was shouting, "Why are you doing this? You need to run and protect yourself." I find the two sides impossible to reconcile. One of the big betrayal hurdles for me is that she had these deep intimate talks on her part with AP. It feels so much like another violation. It was something we shared, and owed to each other, that she gave to AP even before the work trip. If I were going to be open with her about what I'd been experiencing, then I need for her to be with me as well. I need it to be a mutual thing, and not her holding back. I've struggled to figure out how to give her that push. It's new territory for me. Before D-Day, we just had that open line of communication. A part of me feels, how do I know just how much to push and how to know when to pull back? Give her some time. When the EA started, she said that she didn't want to throw her problems on me because I was going through some things. She felt like she was going to throw extra worries. Well, with that in mind, isn't it no better now if she continues to keep these things from me? Isn't that how we kind of got into this position? One thing I am certain about is that I feel like it's time for me to start being more proactive again in regards to this situation. Having the necessary conversations with my wayward wife, and there are still questions I would like answers for. I don't know if I'm going about this the right way, if there's even a right way to deal with things like this. But I feel like I need to try.